Have you ever been out in the woods and looked down, really look closely at the forest floor? If you do, you might just find something that looks like it's from another world. Today, we're going to peel back the leaf litter and uncover one of nature's most bizarre and beautiful little secrets, the helmet orchid.
Okay, so let's just start with this. When a plant gets called the Holy Grail, you know we're talking about something seriously special. And this isn't about giant, flashy flowers. Oh no, this is about rarity, about mind-bending complexity, and, well, about the ultimate challenge for anyone who tries to grow it.
And honestly, that's the perfect way to describe it. We're talking about a flower that's often just a few millimeters long, but its structure is so intricate, so weird. It genuinely looks less like a plant and more like some tiny organic spaceship that just touched down among the moss.
So, what's the big deal? Is it just its strange looks, or is there something more going on here? Well, let me tell you, its otherworldly appearance is really just the cover of a much deeper, much more fascinating book about a hidden partnership that defines its entire existence. So let's get into the specifics. We are talking about the genus Corybas, better known as the helmet orchids. Now, these are what you call diminutive terrestrial plants, so they grow on the ground, and they are absolute masters of camouflage. You could literally walk right past an entire colony of them and have no idea these little botanical jewels were hiding right there in the deep shade. And you can find them dotted all across the Southern Hemisphere, everything from the cool, damp forests of New Zealand and Australia, stretching all the way up through the islands of Southeast Asia and even into the Himalayas.
Okay, so let's deconstruct this little alien spacecraft. Once you know what you're looking at, its bizarre design actually starts to make a whole lot of sense.
All right, so the most obvious feature is the helmet itself, right? That's actually a hugely enlarged dorsal sepal that hoods over everything else. Right below it, you've got the landing platform. That's the labellum, a modified petal built to attract pollinators. The little antennae you see are the other petals and sepals, which have shrunk down to these tiny thread-like bits. Tucked inside, hidden away, is the engine, the plant's reproductive column. And this whole contraption sits on its base, a single perfect heart-shaped leaf that lies totally flat on the ground.
But here's the thing, and this is absolutely crucial. What we see above ground is only half the story. The real secret to the helmet orchid's survival, the key to its entire life, is completely invisible. It's hidden down in the soil right beneath it. And this brings us to the central puzzle for pretty much all orchids. You see, their seeds are like dust. They have practically zero stored food, no endosperm like you'd find in a bean or a corn kernel, so how on earth does it get the energy to even start growing?
The answer is something called a mycorrhizal association. And look, this isn't just a casual friendship. We're talking about an obligate partnership. What that means is the orchid absolutely, positively cannot survive without a very specific kind of fungus in the soil. No fungus, no orchid. It is literally that simple.
The way this works is just incredible. So, first, that tiny seed lands. Then, the right kind of fungus has to find it and literally invade it. The fungus then becomes a lifeline, pumping nutrients that it gets from breaking down leaf litter into the tiny orchid embryo. But, and here's the crazy twist, the orchid then turns the tables and starts to actively digest parts of the fungus for its own food. It's this complex life-or-death dance right from the very beginning.
And what's so fascinating is that this dependency never truly ends. As a tiny seedling, it's 100% dependent on the fungus, a stage we call mycoheterotrophy. Then, as an adult, it grows that little green leaf and can make some of its own food through photosynthesis, but it still gets a big chunk of its nutrients from its fungal partner. That's called mixotrophy, a mixed feeding strategy. It is forever tied to that hidden underground network.
So you see where this is going, right? This absolute lifelong reliance on a super specific, invisible partner is exactly what makes growing Corybas the ultimate test. This is why it gets that Holy Grail title. It's not just about giving it the right light and water. It's about trying to recreate an entire living ecosystem in a tiny little pot.
The hurdles are they're immense. First off, you need the exact right fungal partner, which is probably impossible to identify, let alone grow. Then you have to somehow replicate a cool, deeply shaded forest floor with 80 to 90% humidity without everything just rotting. The soil mix has to be perfect. The tricky seasonal dormancy cycle has to be managed flawlessly. And even if you get all that right, a single slug can come along and wipe out your prized plant overnight. It is a challenge on every single level.
But this incredible specialization, the very thing that makes this orchid so captivating, is also a double-edged sword. It makes it incredibly fragile. And this is about way more than just a gardener's prize. This is about the health of our forests.
So why does this all matter? It's simple, really. You only find helmet orchids where the forest ecosystem is healthy and intact. Because they have such specific needs, that one fungus, stable moisture, and undisturbed layer of leaf litter, their presence is a powerful bioindicator. When you see a Corybas, you know that the complex, delicate web of life in that forest is still working the way it should.
And of course, that web is under serious threat. The #1 danger, no surprise, is habitat destruction. Clearing a forest destroys both the orchid and its fungal partner in an instant. Climate change is messing with the delicate balance of temperature and moisture they need to survive. And ironically, their holy grail status drives some people to illegally collect them from the wild. And remember, if anything happens to that fungus, the orchid is doomed.
So this tiny alien on the forest floor is so much more than just a botanical curiosity. It's a symbol of incredible complexity, of interdependence, and of fragility. It basically represents an entire ecosystem in miniature form, and its survival depends completely on our ability to protect those whole, healthy forests where it lives. So the real question is, can we protect its world before this tiny visitor vanishes for good?